All right, Matt. We're doing this episode's BGOMG.
Okay.
Games that fired other games. This has nothing to do with Donald Trump, even though I said something about it earlier just because it's funny to say you're fired.
Right.
Anyway, the reason we bring this up, and I think we're pretty much on the same page with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think so.
The reason we bring this up is a lot of people online, forums and such, and different podcasts and different whatever. We won't name anybody's stuff here, but a lot of people will say, oh, this game fires that game. There's no reason to play the other game now because this one completely replaces it.
Right.
Do you or do you not agree with that?
I find it to be very rare to be able to say that in my mind about anything.
Yeah, me too. It actually really annoys me to hear that a lot of times because unless it's a second addition to a game, it's usually somewhat different to where it's going to drag in different audiences.
Right.
For different reasons. And I don't know. It's just, oh man, it's so irritating to hear that. I get it. It's not the same as the board gaming industry evolving. Most of the designer games probably do in some ways replace classic games like Monopoly and Scrabble and such. But it doesn't mean that you should stop playing those because they're replaced, quote unquote.
Right.
Just like in the video game world. Yeah, there's Mario on Nintendo and there's tons of games like it, like Crash Bandicoot, later on. And then now the stuff with Rayman.
Right.
There's a lot of games that are doing platforming way better, but it doesn't mean that it totally replaces, the original Mario.
No.
I mean, it's a little bit different because that, you are messing with, like the industry and how they come out with games, the graphic power.
Right.
Board games are really the same. It's boards. Yeah, the art looks better sometimes, but the mechanisms are a little bit better, more defined, but it's not as drastic as a video game transformation. I don't know. Let's go through some examples that we found, Matt.
Examples, yeah.
Talk about these examples, because some people maybe not have heard the games that fired other games.
Right.
So, one of the ones that I thought of immediately was Champions of Midgard fires Lords of Waterdeep.
Mm-hmm.
Lords of Waterdeep is essentially worker placement set in the Dungeons and Dragons world. It is phenomenal.
Yes.
We don't play it too much anymore, but we play a lot of games. So coming back to one is, might happen after a while.
Right.
But Champions of Midgard is the exact same. It's almost like they took the game and said, I'm going to do this and this and this, but it's very, very similar, but it's not. Like, it is different enough, especially in theme. I mean, the other kind of like fantasy. I mean, one's more like Viking fantasy. But Champion of Midgard adds dice. And right there, I feel like you can't fire a game if you introduce luck to it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, there's luck with drawing cards from a deck. But what do you think between the two? Because you've played them.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the worker placement is about it.
Right.
I mean, Champions doesn't have, or at least I don't remember. Do you get a hidden role of a kind that you're trying to accomplish?
You don't have a hidden role. I think you have a character card, though.
Right.
That you have a special ability, maybe?
Special ability, but I'm saying versus the Waterdeep, you're pretty much, you get your secret identity.
For doing this thing over and over, right.
Yeah, and that kind of drives what your gameplay is going to be.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of Lord of Waterdeep.
Right.
Because you're kind of guessing what other people need and getting to it first, because you're like, man, he really needs Arcana Quest as well.
Right.
And Champions, it's the problem with Champions.
There's a big selling area.
Yeah, there's a sailing area, and then you roll a bunch of dice, and what happens if you roll terribly?
Right.
Oh, yeah, that game, for some, you have a bad roll, you bring in tons of guys, and you roll a bunch of blanks and stuff, you're mad.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff doesn't happen in Lords of Waterdeep. And I'm not saying it's bad or unwanted in Champions, because Champions is also awesome. Mm-hmm. I own both, and I don't plan on getting rid of either of them.
Right.
But I can't see why I would completely remove Lords of Waterdeep from my collection because of that. And the reason I also bring this up is, I guess it was a quote, but on the Gray Fox Games, they had an ad out on Kickstarter, or not Kickstarter, on a Board Game Geek that had that quote. This game completely fires Lords of Waterdeep, because Lords of Waterdeep is pretty renowned at this point.
Right.
By a lot of people. And that's just, why would you do that? I don't know if I'd make an ad saying that stuff, because that's one, it's a hefty thing to live up to.
I mean, if they wanted to, not that I'm a marketing genius, but maybe to just stay more fair play with it, like love or like Lords of Waterdeep, you'll love Champions of Midgard. I mean,
that stuff happens all the time, but this one was straight up fires Lords of Waterdeep. Like, if you play that game, you love it.
No, right. I'm just saying.
Never going back.
I'm just saying maybe that should have been more the route.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, right. But I guess talking about the marketing genius thing, it is getting us to talk about it months after,
sure.
Years after or whatever.
Right.
So, anyway, I don't know. Let's do some more examples here. And one I thought of, Matt, which I will slightly agree with, only because I hate the original, but that doesn't matter because it's a personal opinion.
Okay.
But One Night Ultimate Werewolf replaces the normal werewolf.
Well, I mean, I haven't really got to touch on this yet before we get into games, but this example, though, specifically, I have this written down also. They're similar, but they were really different.
They are.
It's they're both social deduction, but in totally different ways. I mean, I could understand where people who sit at Gen Con, they go to Gen Con just to play werewolf all the time, might not even like One Night.
Well, right. Well, one thing is the werewolf, and again, I hate werewolf. Like, I do not like that game at all.
Right.
But I understand there's a huge draw, and I'm not going to make fun of somebody for playing the game.
Right.
There's no reason for that. And so, like, I don't go around, and we joked about this at Gen Con.
Yes.
But going around and buying like 30 copies of One Night and just handing them out to these groups at Gen Con and be like, you should try this. The problem is that's only 10 players, whereas werewolf can be like 120.
Right.
Or whatever. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know why you would ever play with that many people, but 20 or 30 people, you've got a massive group there, and it's pretty impressive to look at a convention and see 20 or 30 people in a big circle,
right,
talking and doing all this stuff.
Patting their laps.
Yeah, it has player elimination. I mean, it has a lot of things I just do not like about the game, but I understand people like it, and I'm not one to I will criticize the game and how it's designed and such like that, but if you love it and have fun with it, I will not criticize you. There's no reason.
Right.
You like what you want to like.
And that's what I'm saying. That's where the appeal might be, just towards that larger social deduction kind of thing, where it's a lot more, One Night, it's timed, it's quick, it's fast. You got to hurry up and get your deal out, pretty.
It's also more of a game.
Yeah.
Because there's more things going on. There's more things to move around. There's more things to touch and feel. Werewolf, you get one card, that's it. Mm-hmm. It's all about talking. So it is very different. And although I would say that if you like werewolf, you should try One Night, I don't necessarily think it fires it.
Right.
So what do you want to go into what you're talking about before we do the rest of the examples I had?
As far as what? Just the preferences, or
you said you didn't get to talk about this before?
No, that's why I was talking.
You worked it in.
Yeah, I worked it in. Oh. It's just you might prefer, and I mean, theme can come into this a lot.
That's true.
If games are similar, but they just have different themes. I mean, Cthulhu is on everything. You might, and they reskin games with it too, and it's maybe you just prefer the Cthulhu version over that, and there's really not a whole lot different. I mean, they're obviously going to put more, usually the madness of some kind as an added feature on games that they do that with, but
right.
But maybe that's just what you're drawn to more, and
well, it's a good example because Lords of Ziddit was Himalaya, so Himalaya mountains and things like that. Lords of Ziddit, its own world, it's more fantasy, like a lightish, like cartoonish fantasy world. Yeah. That appeals way more to me, but apparently the game's very, very similar. It's like, it's just a reskinning. I mean, maybe they fixed some rules and such, but For the most part, the game's the same. Now, technically they're separate games, although it's more of like a second edition of the game. And like, that's what I was saying. Like, I think second editions are the only thing I consider like more of it fires the original one. Mm-hmm. Because it's the exact same game and they're making changes to it and they're fixing the things that may have been broken before. So sure, like Fury of Dracula, the third edition might fire second edition, but maybe not for everyone. Taking, for example, Mansions of Madness.
Right.
They're talking about the second one completely fires the first one. No. Like, I get it. Everybody likes cooperative games. But the biggest thing that I liked about Mansions of Madness was the all versus one mentality.
Right.
That's the whole reason I bought the game, and it is not in the second one.
And if you are that kind of person that enjoys that part of the game, they just removed it. How could it possibly fire that game for you?
Right, exactly. Now, in that case, it is a second addition to it, but let's just say it was a different game. For instance, if you did it in reverse, Champions of Midgard come out and it was amazing, but you're like, I'm not really too keen on the dice part of it. Then Lords of Waterdeep came out. Boom, Lords of Waterdeep fires it for you because it removes the one thing you didn't like. Mm-hmm. It can go both ways.
Right.
Just because it's the new and the cult of the new doesn't mean it's going to automatically kill the thing that it was trying to design around.
Right.
Anyway, let's go through more examples here. We just got a few more. Now, Matt probably hates both these. Bang the dice game replaces Bang the card game.
Right.
It really is the exact same game, but shortened. However, it's probably too short for some people. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's some of the problem you have with it, right?
I just didn't like it.
Well, fair enough.
That was part of it. It's just so quick. It just kind of depends on how the dice go. And it's like, okay, I'm out. Granted, not long, because you're going to play it again, and it doesn't take long to finish a game, but I don't know. I'm also not a big fan of Wild West.
So there you go. I mean, you already started off with hatred.
Yeah.
I mean, not hatred, but...
And I mean, there are games that have a Wild West theme to it that I do like, but I'm not like the biggest fan of it. So
fair enough. And this is a good point to bring up. I talked about second edition of games. Obviously, those will usually fire the previous one because better components, fixing rules, and such like that. But what about slimmer versions of the same game or dice versions of the same game? Like Nations, the dice game is great. Right. Nations, the card game is great, or whatever you want to call it. Nations.
Right.
I don't think they fire either. I don't think the dice game fired the original one because it's fourth of the time.
Right.
Whereas in this, Bang the Dice game is way quicker than Bang the card game. I don't think it fires it though, because in the card game, there's more time and it really emphasizes the deduction roll on who's who. Because you're like, you just pinged me for one, two. Whereas in the dice game, it's like, bam, so much crap happened before it's my turn, I'm dead.
Right.
Oh, I bet you're bad.
Yeah.
Well, that was really fast. I know that now because I didn't even get to go.
Right.
Stuff like that. So whatever. This topic's making me mad. All right. So Arboretum fired Lost Cities. First off, they're not even the same player count. Lost Cities is 2 players and it plays, I feel, a lot better than Arboretum, even though Arboretum is great because it plays 3 and 4. People might not want that 2-player experience.
Right. Maybe people don't like trees.
Yeah, trees are stupid.
Trees are dumb. I like the adventure theme.
I like the oxygen they gave me.
Yeah, adventure theme. I think theme can have a ton to do. Some, I don't know if you were going to say this, but the Resistance, sorry, not Resistance, Shadows over Camelot and Battlestar Galactica.
It's on here.
Okay. Take that in account. I like both games a lot. Battlestar, actually, I think I like the way you hide your roll a little bit better with the color coding on the cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can get away with screwing over the party.
Yeah, I almost wish that part was somehow in Shadows, but
you almost have to go out of your way in Shadows.
Yeah,
you just have to lie a bunch in Shadows, but in this one you can be for real the whole time, but then feeding bad cards in.
Exactly. So but point being, I'm not the biggest science fiction fan. I never watched Battlestar Galactica, so I'm going to lean more towards, even though Shadows over Camelot was my number 1 game the last time we did a top 10, so there's another reason. But I'm more of a fantasy. If you've got the same game in front of me, and maybe the earlier one was a fantasy version, and this game that so-called kills it is something else, I might still be drawn to the fantasy one over.
Yeah, I agree. I would rather play... They both have their strengths and weaknesses, but I would probably rather play Shadows over Camelot like 90% of the time.
Me too.
So, Jessica, one more. Nope, 2 more. Eldritch Horror fired Arkham Horror. For a lot of people, they're going to disagree with this, although it is pretty much the same. They designed it basically to replace Arkham Horror, because Arkham Horror, I feel like, just got massive with the 55,000 expansions. I mean, it takes up a living room to play the game. Some people didn't want that, but Arkham Horror does the same thing, but, lighter, I guess. I mean, it's still a longer game, and it has expansions now.
I've got no dog in this fight. I've not played either one, so.
Me either. All right, let's move on from that one before we sound stupid. Well, and then there's Caverna and Agricola.
If I was going to, and I still wouldn't say it, but if I understand that one, it's the same designer. It's the same company. It looks the same about. It's got a little bit different theme on it. They took out the Feed the People thing. I've yet to play Caverna, but it sounds
like more of a second edition.
Exactly. But you still there might be things about Agricola that's not in Caverna that you enjoy more.
Right.
I don't know about the scoring system. Maybe the scoring system's different. You just enjoyed it better in Agricola. But yeah, Caverna was definitely, when it came out, everybody was like, why even play Agricola anymore? Well, I've spent the last 10 years of my life loving it. Why would I just give it up?
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, and that tugging on heartstrings can have a lot to do with it too. So it goes back to this. Like, take a RPG, like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder. A lot of people said Pathfinder replaced Dungeons and Dragons. Dude, no, it does not. I mean, it used the same mechanism, but 5th edition came out and it's way different. I mean, people are still playing all of it. Personally, I think I like Iron Kingdoms better than all of it. But does that mean I'm not going to play, Pathfinder or D&D anymore? No, because the greatest thing about, and this is what I tell people about music all the time, because people say that in music too. It's like they always move on to the new stuff that's out. And I'm okay listening to the old stuff. But it doesn't mean that I have to get rid of all the old crap. I don't have to get rid of my old RPG books or my old CDs and things like that just because the Colton and New says so. Right.
And I feel like people that are saying this game fires, this game, whatever. Yeah, some of them are probably being a little bit, generic about it.
Right.
Like maybe they have more thoughts about it, but that's just the easiest way to say it. Oh, you should play this because it does everything that game does, but better. Well, that might be true, but it doesn't do everything that game does. And that one thing that it doesn't cover might be my favorite aspect of it.
Right.
And so it really irritates me.
I mean, I guess this is really, subjective in a sense, but
yeah, that's true.
But still, I don't ever like to be so definitive to just say, well, this came out.
Well, I guess I have to rip that game up.
Yeah, I might as well take this Goodwill or something.
Well, you shouldn't even do that because it fired it. No one's going to buy it.
Right. Well, true.
You're donating it to the garbage can.
Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, there's no more example. Well, there's Ashes fired Magic the Gathering, which
that's just ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. You take a competitive game, add tons of dice. I love Ashes. It's a fun game, but it does not replace Magic.
Oh, this game come out. Let me get rid of my collection I've been collecting over the last 10 years.
Playing this game since 94.
Said no one ever.
I guess it's gone.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not to say that Magic players won't allot some time towards Ashes or anything like that, but it's, man, those people are way too invested in Magic to just be like, well, this game came out, I'm getting rid of my collection now.
Well, the other thing is too, let's just say it was the same game. Let's say WoW TCG, which is a way better example of firing Magic.
Well,
because it ripped off the exact game.
It was the same game, right?
And fixed it. Really was Magic 2nd edition.
They just got rid of the land bubble you might run into,
right,
or a way to alleviate it.
Yeah, I mean, I really like that aspect a lot better. There's a lot of things there's nothing that I liked about Magic more than I liked about the WoW TCG. Everything in WoW TCG I liked better than Magic. But it ripped the game off completely. Mm-hmm. It was not inspired. No. It was lifted and then added a few different things.
Right.
So whatever. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I don't really care in the end, as long as it was done all legally and stuff like that. But at the same time, it didn't make me stop playing Magic. I play it every once in a while. I have a lot of cards for both games. I didn't just immediately sell all my old stuff because it's like, well, this is a much better game. Holy crap. Get rid of everything. Maybe some people don't have a lot of time and they only have room for one hobby. And then that game, because a CCG is a lot different than a board game. When you commit to a CCG, you commit to a CCG.
Right.
And I think board games, you just commit to playing board games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can see that maybe a little bit, like some people would replace their collection with that. Or, War Machine came out and I totally went War Machine and got rid of all my 40K. And by the way, when I say that, I put it in the closet. I still own it.
Right.
So maybe a more hobby game can fire it, but really it's just for you. It doesn't mean that it's better. It might be better for you, but not.
And I think that's what a lot of it is. It's just maybe it's better for that person. I don't think as a whole we should all just say,
yeah,
this game came out, burn the other one.
I think that's what I'm pretty much focusing on the whole time. It is good for you over this other game, but it does not mean that it's a blanket statement for the world.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, the only thing I was going to talk about is mechanisms, because a lot of these games just use a similar mechanism. How many deck builders are there, Matt?
Tons.
There are, I mean, one of your top 10 was deck builders.
Yes.
It wasn't even a specific game.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, sure, there's Dominion and it does a lot of things. And then there's like Legendary, or there's, Ascension. So Ascension came out. A lot of people say that it replaced Dominion for them, that it fired Dominion. But they're a lot different.
A lot different.
A lot different than each other. There's a lot of things happening in both games that are totally different. So just because you're deck building doesn't mean that another deck builder is going to completely replace it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, probably rambling way too long about this. You get our point. Stop saying it. You have any final thoughts on this?
No, just like I said, I just think it's too definitive of a statement.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Well, let us know what you think. Send us an email to meeplecore@gmail.com and send us your BGOMG, things that you hate in the board gaming that happen, things like that. So it'd be cool to hear from you guys.
And flame.
And
flame us. Flame away.
Yeah, well, you can probably do that on the YouTube channel, just under the video.
With everyone else.